Hello everyone, welcome to the Jeremiah Patterson Show. I know there is a lot going on in the news right now, but I want you to remember to stay clear-eyed and to stay focused. As I always say on this show, eyes open, heads up, stay focused. And one of the things that I want to show you tonight is a report. I believe I did this back in April or March of this year, speaking about what Donald Trump was doing to consolidate power regarding elections in this country. And there was something that just happened last week that barely got attention because of the Elon Musk-Donald Trump fight. As I say, every time there's overexposure on one specific story, there's something extremely more important that has transpired that they want you to be distracted from. So I want to show you this report. It's about 8 minutes long. I cut it up because the other part of it is irrelevant for this current timeline, but I wanted to show you part of this report here, and then I'm going to come back with that new breaking news. You might remember on the 2024 campaign trail, Donald Trump made a series of statements effectively saying that, people just vote for him this one time and you won't have to vote ever again. He made statements like that, or saying, vote for me and you'll be fine. We have so much votes, we don't even need any votes. You don't even have to vote. He made a series of those statements in the 2024 election. And now we are seeing something that I'm not quite sure it's getting a lot of media attention, but we're here to cover it here on the Jeremiah Patterson Show. That Donald Trump is actively trying to rewrite the way that elections are run in this country. Essentially trying to consolidate power within the executive branch to essentially make it to where he's the overseer of elections in this country. And this is particularly dangerous. This is something that happened on Friday night, I believe it was. This story broke on Friday night. You can see the headline there. This is from Axios. It says, CISA braces for deep staffing cuts. What does that mean? What is CISA? So CISA is effectively it's a cybersecurity agency for elections in this country. And this is particularly concerning because what this means is that, to start slashing or doing things at CISA that are going to be detrimental in terms of staffing cuts and budget cuts, that's bad because it's the overseer of elections in terms of cybersecurity in this country. This is why this is bad. This is from Axios here. It reads here, quote, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency is looking to push out as much as a third of the agency's total headcount, in addition to contract personnel from a major threat hunting team, according to 3 sources familiar with the matter. The cuts are likely to impact every single part of the agency, one of those sources told Axios, dealing a huge blow to the country's cybersecurity posture following earlier rounds of layoffs and contracts cuts. CBS reports that the agency plans to cut as many as 1,300 employees. 1,300 employees? Why? Why would we want to slash spending why would we want to slash the staff in half at CISA? Why would we want to go after CISA specifically? Not too many people even know what CISA is. Oh, what did they do? Quote, the agency has cut funding to several election security efforts, spurring concerns among state and local election officials who relied on the agency for threat intelligence about adversaries targeting their elections. That's what it is. CISA oversees elections in this country, and they're pretty darn good at what they do. Because it's not just the interference of foreign actors, it's also domestic actors as well. That's what CISA does. That's their job. So they're going to go after CISA. That's thing number one to watch. And this is a small story. I say this is a small story and to pay attention and keep your eyes open, heads up, and stay focused, because what they're trying to do is throw so much at you that you don't even notice this late Friday night news story. And it's almost dropping in a way where it's like, oh, people are, they're so exhausted by the news. They're overstimulated. They're not going to care about this small agency CISA. What the hell is CISA? Who cares about that? No, it's absolutely terrifying that they're going after CISA, but they're counting on you not to pay attention. They're counting on you not to watch people like me that are going to report on what they're trying to do. So that's thing number one to watch. They're going after CISA. This is also reporting here from CBS News a couple of weeks ago about Democrats essentially suing Trump to block Trump effectively from gaining more control over the FEC. Because, of course, in recent weeks, Donald Trump didn't just gain power over the FEC. Donald Trump gained power in a way that he was able to illegally fire one of the board members on the FEC, one of the commissioners on the FEC. You cannot just fire people on the Federal Election Commission. You can't just do that. But what he's trying to do is consolidate power over the FEC. Because if you can get the FEC, you can control that the way elections work in this country. He's trying to make himself all powerful and all encompassing of the power, consolidating that power within the executive branch. This is reporting from CBS News here. Quote, National Democrats asked a judge Tuesday to issue a preliminary injunction halting an executive order signed by President Trump that gives him more control over the Federal Election Commission. The Democratic National Committee, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee filed a federal civil lawsuit last month challenging the executive order, alleging it was a naked power grab by Mr. Trump to assume more control over U.S. elections. In February, Mr. Trump signed an executive order to curtail the authority of independent regulatory agencies. The independent regulatory agencies officials who wield vast executive power must be supervised and controlled by the people's elected president. What? That does not sound at all democratic. That, quite frankly, sounds dictatorial. I don't believe in the way that elections are run in this country. As a matter of fact, I don't trust the way that elections are run in this country. So therefore, all elections hereby going forward should be controlled and overseen by me, even if I'm a contender in that election. What did Donald Trump say earlier this week? What, that he wanted to run for a third term? How do you do that? By reshaping the way that elections are done in this country, by reshaping the way that the Constitution portrays the fact that someone cannot run for a third term as president of the United States, but that he does not care about. Because, of course, he said that he wanted to be a dictator on day one. He wanted to be president of the United States forever. And now they're actually trying to make that happen by getting rid of CISA, rewriting the way that elections are done in this country, and also to consolidate power over the FEC. And another thing happened this week as well. 19 Democratic attorney generals sued the Trump administration over a new executive order that was signed, arguing that it is unconstitutional. 19 states have sued the Trump administration over a new executive order that essentially that they say is unconstitutional because it literally wants to control elections in the states. The lawsuit, quote, which is the fourth legal challenge so far against the executive order, calls on federal district court in Massachusetts to block several provisions of the executive order, which the attorney generals argue usurps the state's constitutional power and seeks to amend election law by fiat. Let's change the way that elections are done in this country because I don't like the way that elections are done in this country. As a matter of fact, I should oversee the elections as well. He's counting on you not to watch this video. He's counting on you not to share this video or to comment and to ask questions or to do deeper research. He's counting on you to be dumb and to be so out of pocket in terms of your thoughts because you're not focused or you are not, you checked out. He's counting on people to check out because you miss important stories and headlines like this. This is what they are trying to do. This is what they are trying to do in this country. They're trying to change the way that elections are done. At a time when Republicans are losing. At a time when Republicans are losing districts that they should win because Trump won those districts. At a time when Democrats are crushing special elections and flipping counties that they were not previously going to flip. and winning Supreme Court races, defying the odds of a billionaire who seeks to eviscerate not just democracy at the national level, but at the state level. At a time when Democrats are absolutely crushing it right now, there is a coordinated assault to change the way that elections are done in this country so that he is able to have more power. And that only he, can oversee the way that elections are done in this country. And this is happening right before the midterms, 2026. But it's also happening before several other key races that are going to be happening in this country. So that is how Donald Trump is trying to consolidate power over the elections in this country, not just for the federal government, but also in the states. And remember how Democrats sued to essentially stop Donald Trump from being in control of the FEC, which is quite insane. Also, as I said in that report, dictatorial. Well, look what just happened. This was on June 4th, 2025. So this was last week. Trump defeats Democrats' lawsuit over election commission independence. This is reporting from Reuters here. Quote, a Washington, D.C. judge has dismissed the Democratic Party's lawsuit accusing U.S. President Donald Trump of violating federal election law by trying to assert control over the Independent Federal Election Commission. U.S. District Judge Amir Ali ruled on Tuesday night that the three Democratic committees lacked a concrete and imminent injury to justify suing now, because they did not show Trump would violate election law. Are we serious? Because Trump would not violate election law because they did not show how? He has violated election law before multiple times, calling, the Secretary of State in Georgia, hey, can you just find me a couple more votes so I can win this election? Please, Brad, please.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
I mean, there are multiple instances in which Donald Trump has violated election law. There was a federal election interference investigation, yet the judge has dismissed this case. So now, heading into the midterms, Donald Trump is the sole overseer of the Federal Election Commission, this nonpartisan, independent commission that is over elections in this country. Donald Trump now has that power effectively. But also, you have to talk about this while also looking at the situation of currently what's going on in Los Angeles. The Los Angeles protests that are transpiring, Donald Trump federalizing the National Guard, threatening to send in the Marines. This is from The Atlantic here. It says, quote, if Trump can incite disturbances in blue states before the midterm elections, he can assert emergency powers to impose federal control over the voting process, which is to say, his control. Or he might suspend voting until, in his opinion, order has been restored. Either way, blue states could be rendered vacant for some time. Think about that. There is historical precedent for this. President Ulysses S. Grant did this essentially to suppress the KKK when they were disturbing elections, back in the late 1800s. But for someone like Donald Trump, if I can send in the National Guard and federalize the National Guard, if I can send in the U.S. military, if I can create the notion that there's violence happening, riots are happening, and ignore the fact that there are majority peaceful protests, I can then step in as the federal government and effectively shut off elections. We're not going to have a midterms. Democrats can't get it together. It's messy. They're incompetent. Their cities are disgusting and violent. That's Donald Trump's goal here. That's his goal. What did they say again? Quote, if Trump can incite disturbances in blue states before the midterm elections, he can assert emergency powers to impose federal control over the voting process, which is to say his control. And that's right. It is his control now, because per that federal judge out of Washington, D.C., Donald Trump is now the sole overseer of the Federal Election Commission right before the midterms in 2026. What do you say? Republicans are unpopular with tariffs and these immigration raids? Oh, well, we're not going to have a midterms, so the American people won't get to voice their opinion in the voting booth. That's what they are trying to do here. So while they have your attention focused on other things, be clear-eyed and pay attention to what else is happening. There's overexposure on one story. That means they're trying to consolidate power with another. Eyes open, heads up, stay focused. Be very clear-eyed about what's going on. Share this video with your family and friends. If you're a fan of the Jeremiah Patterson Show, please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. If you'd like to support my work financially, you can support us at one of these links down here. Of course, as independent journalism is grassroots funded, and we do rely on your donations to continue this crucial work. You can follow me on Blue Sky and Substack at tjpsnews, as well as email me tjpsnews@gmail.com. I will see you again tonight for the TJPS Evening News Show, but I wanted to make this brief video to give you guys a heads up about what's happening here, because while there is overexposure on one story, there is also something else more important that's happening.